of the biggest advantages of learning Azure Storage is its versatility and scalability. Whether you're managing huge data volumes or you need secure and efficient storage for everyday applications, Azure Storage can meet those demands, allowing you to scale as your projects grow while maintaining control and accessibility. Welcome to my channel today. We're going to be diving deep into practical hands-on session covering major Azure storage resources. Whether you're just starting with Azure or looking to sharpen your skills or even to prepare for your certification, then this video is packed with practical demonstrations and best practices to help you make the most of Azure storage solutions. I'm going to start with Azure Blob storage, where you learn how to create and manage containers, okay, to store objects and control access to your data. And then we move to Azure File Shares. I'm gonna, show you everything you need to know about file share, how to create an NFS file share and mount it to your Linux VMs, okay, for high performance, as well as a way to have a centralized file sharing for your data. We'll also tackle managed disk in Azure. I'm gonna walk you through the process of creating managed disk, attaching them to your virtual machines and mounting them to your VM, as well as how to handle persistent storage effectively. By the end of this video, you have a solid foundation in Azure Storage and be ready to implement those skills directly in your own projects. So let's jump right in and start building our Azure expertise. In this video, I'm going to be demonstrating how to create Azure Storage account, as well as some other features in Azure Storage, okay? Whether you're managing backups, storing large files, or sharing data across the cloud, Azure Storage is a powerful and scalable solution for you, and you can actually access your data from anywhere. I'm going to be focusing more on Azure Blob storage, and this is a service in Azure that allows you to store large amounts of unstructured data, such as your documents, videos, and images in the cloud. I'm going to be showing you how to create Azure Storage account, how to create a blob container, as well as how to create folders and upload your files into the folders. Like this video, your like will actually help to encourage me. Comment to say thank you or ask questions, subscribe to the channel, and as well turn on notification because you don't want to miss out on subsequent videos. Let's get started. So from the Azure portal, let's look for storage accounts. So this is all services. I can type storage account here, or I can locate it from here. I can type storage account, right? This is it here. I click on that. Also, as you can see, I don't have any storage account here. So click on create a storage account. Right, so my subscription has been selected. For the resource group, I'm going to be selecting the resource group I have already. If you don't have a resource group, you can create a new one from here. So for the storage account name, please note that this will be a unique one. So you need to use a unique name to create your storage account. So I'm going to name this special let's say special storage 101. All right, then choose your region. Ensure you're choosing a region that is closer to your users. It depends on who you're storing this for. Okay, it depends on the usage actually. So I'm good with West US, right? The primary service here is Azure Blob Storage. So we are going with this first option. If the plan is for you to use this for Azure file shares and all, and tables and queue, you can select this other one, but we are focused on Azure Blob. So for the performance, we have standard and premium. Okay, standard is for general purpose storage, while premium is for high performance needs. So let's go with standard. For the redundancy, I want locally redundant storage to save costs. Okay, then I click on next. Over here we have require secure transfer for REST API. This is selected for security, so I'll leave it this way. I'll be enabling the anonymous access on individual container, okay? Because I want to have the option to change it to private, to public at any time I want. So that is why I'm enabling this. Yeah, I'll leave this as well. Then minimum TLS version 1.2 is actually highly recommended at this point. So we go with that. Permitted scope for copy operation. Please note that you can actually click on this icon to know if you don't understand any parameter, you can click or just hover your mouse on this icon here, right? And you can read what that means, okay? So I don't really want to restrict the copy, so I'll leave it from any storage account. And I'll just leave every other thing here as default. For the blob storage access tier, I have hot, cool, and cold. Okay, so you can read what they mean, each of these stuff here means. So I'll leave it as hot. So I'll click on next. For the network connectivity, I'm gonna leave enable public access from all network. All right, I actually want this data I want to save to be public. But if you want to restrict the access, the network access, actually, you can either go with this, all right, or this. And the routing preference is Microsoft network routing. I click next. You can actually enable point in time restore for containers. Okay, it shows that point in time restore requires versioning, blob storage feed, blob change feed, and blob soft delete to be enabled. So I've enabled this, so I need to enable these other ones because they work together. Soft delete has been enabled, so this soft delete actually means that it will retain my deleted blobs. Okay, so let's say I deleted one of my data, right, in my blob container. It will take like 7 days to be deleted permanently. Okay, so that is what it means. And these other ones here as well. So let's scroll down and enable the blob change feed and yeah, versioning for blob. So okay, so that is it. I'll just click on next. I don't really want to apply tag, so let's review and create. It is still validating. Okay, so it has actually validated, so I'm gonna click on create to get this created. Great, so deployment is complete, so I'm gonna click on go to resource. So this is our storage account, and this is all the information. So we are actually interested in the data storage option here, and you can see the types. We are focused on containers. We have some containers here by default, but I'm gonna go ahead. Let's create our own container. So containers are like folders within your storage account that help to organize your blobs. Okay, so we first need to create a container. We actually need to create a container. We can't start uploading files without creating a container. So I'm gonna name this okay, for this anonymous access level, you can read what that means by just hovering your mouse on this icon, right? I don't want this to be private. I want it to be blob, like anonymous read access for blobs only. So I'll go with blobs, and you can see this warning here. I'm okay with that, so I'll click on create. And this container will be created just in seconds. Great. And it is created. So here is our container. I'm gonna click on that. This request is not authorized to perform this operation. Um, okay, so I actually need to enable all network to have access instead of selecting that. Okay. So at this point, I'm just gonna quickly go back to my storage. So I'll click on networking, right? It is because I restricted access. That is why I'm having this access issue. So I can actually enable from selected virtual network and IP addresses, and this will enable me to add my client, um, my client's IP and all that. But I want to enable from all networks, so you go with your own requirement. And having enabled that, I will save it. And that is completed. So let's go back to the container here and see if we can access that. So I'll click on my container, and as you can see, it is open now, but it is actually empty. So this is the point where we go ahead to upload our files and folders. You can change access level from here, okay? So you can decide to make it private, whatever. I'll cancel this. Go ahead to upload our files, okay, and folders. So I'm going to click on this upload, and I can actually browse for files in order to start uploading my files. But I want to expand this advanced option because I want to upload my files into a folder. So here I will say my can use full tutorial folder, right? This will be my folder name. It's just like creating a folder, and then you're uploading your files into the folder. So now I will go over here and click on browse for files. I will click on my document, and then I will select the tech materials. These are the two files I actually want to upload. These two, I'll click on upload, all right? And down here there's an upload option, so I'll click on upload. So this is actually uploading the two files into my tutorial folder. Great. So if I click on this tutorial folder, you'll be seeing my two images. All right, so now I want to show you how you can as well upload an image without adding it into this existing folder. Okay, going back to my container, opening my container, I just want to upload another image without adding it into this tutorial folder. So I'll click on upload. I can as well, select this overwrite files if it already exists. So click on browse for files, and here I have a file here. I'll click on upload, and I'll upload that. Great, so this has been uploaded into my container. Okay, so let me go to this, click on this image, right? You can see the properties of this image, and you can view if you have the previous version of it. If you have a snapshot, you can as well create a snapshot for your blog, for your data. Okay, you can edit it, you can generate SAS token and all that. So going back to the overview, let's try to access this over the internet. As you can see, I can access my Microsoft logo, which is a file I uploaded over the internet. And that is a wrap. We've successfully created an Azure Storage account, set up our container, created folders, and uploaded files. Okay. Remember to choose the appropriate access tier based on your data usage pattern in order to optimize cost. Okay. I'm so excited that I'm going to be walking you through step by step on how to configure Azure File Shares with NFS on Linux VMs. This setup is actually crucial for environments where data need to be shared across VMs securely and efficiently. So I'm going to be starting from scratch, and I'm going to walk you through the entire process from creating an Azure Storage account that is optimized for Azure file shares to configuring the file shares with NFS protocol. Then we'll go ahead to set up private endpoint for secure access, and then we'll proceed to mounting the file share on our Linux VM. So by the end of this video, you'll have a clear understanding on how to leverage Azure file shares capabilities, how to set up secure access, and also ensure that your file share is easily accessible and can persist across VM reboot. Okay. This is actually what we'll be covering in this video. First of all, I'm going to share the overview of Azure file shares. Then we'll go on to create an Azure Storage account that is optimized for Azure file shares or Azure file storage. Thereafter, we go on to the configuring Azure file shares with NFS protocol. And then we'll go ahead to set up a private endpoint for secure access. Then the next will be to mount the Azure file share on Linux VMs. And then we'll see how to persist the mount, the NFS file share mount on the VMs. And then we'll test what we've done. Azure File Share is actually a fully managed cloud file system provided by Azure. This helps or enables the storage and sharing of files across multiple platforms and devices, allowing for easy file access via the SMB or NFS protocol. Today we'll be focusing on NFS, right? So this service is actually highly scalable. It offers a secure and high performance access to file shares, that can be mounted to multiple virtual machines, making it ideal for applications that require, shared file storage across the cloud. We can use Azure File Shares to lift and shift applications. We can use that for shared storage for our virtual VMs. Previously on my job, I was able to, set up this NFS file share across our VMs. So that way we're able to access our files across different virtual machines. Okay, we can as well use that for, containerization. It can help us to simplify cloud deployment or development, and then it can be used to replace or supplement on-premise file servers. So at this point, let's actually get started with, by creating our storage account. In the previous video, we actually created a storage account, and that one was optimized for blob storage. But for this one, we are optimizing it for our Azure file share. Okay, before we go ahead, kindly like this video just to encourage me, okay, because this promises to be interesting. And also subscribe, click on notification bell, that way you get notified each time I publish a new video. Okay, thank you, and we can get started. So once you log into your Azure portal, just type storage account, and that is it here. Click on that. So I'll click on create a storage account. So once you click on that, my subscription is already selected, and for the resource group, I'm selecting the resource group I have already. If you don't have any, kindly create a resource group, but we'll be using one resource group across even the VMs that will provision later. Please, let's use one resource group. Okay, the storage account name, let me use tutorial storage. Ensure that your storage account name is unique. Okay, region is West US, and I'm okay with that. For primary services, Azure files, that is our focus. All right, performance actually goes well. The performance parameter we have here goes well with premium. I mean, when we're talking about file shares, Azure file shares with NFS, because we're actually going for NFS protocol. Okay, I'm gonna explain why we are going with that option. So it's better we use premium because this is for low latency and it works well with NFS, right? For the redundancy, locally redundant storage is okay. I'll click on next. Here, I will just leave this as default. Minimum TLS version we have currently is 1.2 at this point, so it's okay. The permitted scope for copy operation, if you don't have idea of any parameter, just hover your mouse here and you read about it. I'm actually good from any storage account. You can go ahead and select any option here that is okay with your own requirement, okay? And that is it for this page. I'll just leave all these the way they are. Click on next. For network access, um so you have three options here, okay? At this point, I'm not really using this for anything serious, just for the purpose of this tutorial. So I'll be enabling public access from all networks, all right? So please choose any one of these according to your requirement. I'm not adding any private endpoint at this stage, so I'll click on next. Disable soft delete. I don't really need it, okay? But if you need soft delete for file shares, you can actually enable it from here. You can also enable versioning. Well, this one is basically for blob, all right? So I'll click on next, and encryption type is Microsoft managed key. That one is selected already. Enable support for customer managed keys. I will just use um all service types, all right? And I'll click on next. I don't really want to tag, so I'll click on review and create. So now it is validating this. Validation is completed, so I can see everything is actually okay, right? So I'll just click on create, complete. Okay, deployment is completed. I'll click on go to resource. So at this point, the next resource we need to create is Azure file share. Okay, so once you expand this data storage, you should be able to see file share. But we cannot proceed with this step if you don't have a VNet. Okay, so before now, I've actually created you know my virtual network. So if you don't have any, just click on create and you should be able to create your virtual network and your subnet. Okay, so I have mine already. So going back to my storage account, I will open that and then I'll click on file shares. So to create our file share, I will just click on file share. By the way, the use case here is actually to, mount our Azure file share into our Linux VM, okay, so that we can be able to access our files across different workstation, across different virtual machines, okay. So we'll be using NFS protocol. So Azure file share with NFS protocol will allow Linux-based virtual machines and applications to seamlessly access file shares in Azure, yeah, providing the same shared storage experience as on-premise NFS servers. Okay, so we will be going with NFS. So in this page to create our file share, I'll be naming this one share one 111. Okay, and for the provision storage, I would like to use my capacity should be 100. Yes, so depending on your requirements, if you want to use 1 terabyte, then go ahead and specify it here. So let's select NFS protocol. Okay, you can read more about NFS file share. We have SMB and NFS. So for the root squash, no root squash. We don't want root squash. Okay. So if I click on next, I'll see enable backup. By the way, NFS file share are not supported by Azure Backup, so I don't want to enable this. I'll just click on review. Validation has been passed, and I'll click on create. So this has actually created, so it has been deployed successfully. Now from this share, from our NFS file share, I can see connect from Linux, configure network security. So for this network configuration, we actually need to configure this storage account so that we can use that from a particular virtual network. Okay, the NFS protocol can only be used from a machine inside of a VNet. Okay, so if I click on view options, you should be able to see private endpoint here, and you're also seeing service endpoint. So I want us to make use of this private endpoint. Why? A private endpoint will give our storage account a private static IP address, within the virtual network. This will prevent connectivity interruptions. Okay, that comes when you have dynamic IP address. But if you don't really care about having a static IP address, then you can enable service endpoint. So I'll just click on set up a private endpoint for our Azure file share, and it is coming up. Okay, it is empty, so we need to create it. So I'll click on private endpoint. So from here, my subscription is selected already. This is my resource group. Oh, so the name here, I'll just name it private endpoint, and that is it. Network interface has been generated. This will be the name. The region is West US. I'll click on next. So for this resource, the target sub resource is file, and that is fine. Click on virtual network. So this is where we'll be selecting um, the virtual network that I asked you to create. Okay, so I'll select, this is my VNet, and the subnet is default, and that is okay by me. For this private IP configuration, you can still select whether I want it to be dynamic or static. I prefer, let me leave it at this. Okay, and I click on DNS. By the way, you can set up network policy for your private endpoint, but this one by default is disabled. So I'll click on DNS. By default, we'll be having a private DNS zone that is from our VNet. So I don't really need to do anything here. I'll just leave it the same way it is. Okay. If you don't want to integrate with private DNS zone, you can click on no. But I'll choose yes. Okay. And I'll click on tags. I don't really care about tags, so review and create. I'll click on okay. It is running final validation, so let's give it a moment. Okay, so I'll click on create. Deployment is in progress, so just give this few minutes to come. Oh great, so it is now completed. I'll click on go to resource, and here we have our private endpoint. Great, so at this point, let me go back to the storage account, and let's access our file share. So this is our file share here, and okay, so we've configured the network. So we have secure transfer setting here. We need to disable secure transfer, okay, because it is actually needed. We need to disable it for NFS to work. So I'll click on change setting, and here this is secure transfer. So I'll just disable it and save it from here. Now is updating the storage account. So once this is completed, we'll go ahead to to get our VM ready. Okay, because our file share is ready. Now we have to go into the VMs and start mounting. But I've actually created my two VMs already. So with that VNet I asked you to create, you have to provision or deploy your VMs. It actually depends on the number of VMs you want, but here we are using two. Okay, I created two Ubuntu VM of this operating system here, right? And I deployed the two VMs in the teach uh, VNet. Okay, so the two VMs I have are named teach VM1 and teach VM2, all in the same VNet. So please do same. It is actually very simple to just deploy a VM, no much requirement. So after the deployment of your VM, let's go ahead and then mount the NFS file share into the VMs we have. Okay, so I'll go back to the Azure file share, and let's get the mount instruction. So once you open your file share, this is the mount instruction. All right. um so connect from Linux, and so we need to start by following this mount instruction. This first one is actually to update the package manager. The second command here, sudo apt-get install nfs common, is to install nfs common 2, which we'll be using for, because we can't mount without installing this tool. Is very important. For the mount part here, this is the mount part we have. Okay, and I will be making use of this. You can actually customize depending on your requirement. Okay, but I'm good with this mount part. I'm actually good with that. So with this mount part, I'll use the same name to create a directory. That is the command we have here, sudo mkdii-p, and then the mount point name. So after the directory, we'll now use this command to mount it in our VM. Okay, so let's go ahead to do this. I'll just copy this first one. So over here, before I paste this command, let me show you the outcome of this df -h command. To view the file system, you can see there is no mount NFS file share that has been mounted here already, and that is what we're trying to do. So I'll paste the first command here to update the package manager and install the NFS common 2 for us. Great, that has been done. Let me clear this. The second command, I'll be copying this one to create the directory where we are going to mount the NFS file share. This has been created, the directory has been created. Okay, now I'll be copying this command for the mount. So I'll paste this here, and because we are using a private endpoint, I don't want to go via the public internet. So for our own security, I need to add private link over here. Private link, sorry, dot file. Okay, so that is all I need to do in order to make use of our private endpoint. So I will just press enter, and let's confirm if this NFS file share has been mounted. So easy, right? Great, this is it over here. It has been mounted successfully. But at this point, this has not actually I mean, if I restart this VM, or if anything happen and this VM get restarted, we'll lose this NFS mount point here. So it will just disappear. So we want that persistence, we want this to persist upon system reboot. How do we do that? We have to use a file called fstab in order to configure this. So to do that, all I need to do is to copy this. Sorry, I need to copy this command that I used over here, right? Then open a file called etc fstab. In my last video where we mounted our disk, our Azure managed disk, I explained in details about this fstab. So you may want to see that, okay, if you want to learn more. So all I need to do here is to paste this here, and at the end part, I'll need to type 00, and I want to get rid of this dash O, and because we are using NFS, I'll just type NFS here. And that is the all the configuration I need to do in this FS tab, as long as this NFS file share is consigned. So remember, we're using private endpoint, so that is why I attached this. I added this private link here. Okay, so this is the mount point where we'll be mounting the NFS file share. That will be the location. So yeah, we are actually good with this, and I'll just go ahead to save this file. Okay, so having configured this, in order to test it out, I'll be going ahead to restart this VM, and let's see if that will persist. um Before I go ahead to restart it, you can actually use this command to mount as well. You can use this command to mount. So I'm not pressing enter because this has been mounted already. But once you configure your FS tab, all right, you can use this command to mount it. So this sudo mount A will go straight to the FS tab and use the configuration you have there to mount your NFS file share. Okay, even your disk. But now I'm not mounting it because it's already mounted. So let's restart this VM and see if it persists. I'll restart. Yes. So that has restarted successfully. Now let's SSH back into the VM. Okay. So now I'll be running the df-h to see the file system. And great, you can see this has been this is persisting upon system reboot. Great. Now we can actually switch to this directory. So let's switch to that, and you can see it is empty, so I can go ahead to create my folders in this location. I can make this to be first folder. Okay, I can create my file. All right, makes sense. So this same step that we've taken to mount this NFS file share in this machine is the exact step I'm gonna use for the other VM. Okay, so I'm not adding, I'm not removing. So I'm just gonna pause this video and do that quickly, and then I'm gonna show you how the file access will work out. I'm going to show you the file distribution and how accessible you can have your files across these VMs. Okay, so I've actually succeeded in mounting this in the second VM, and as you can see, we have it. So I will just go ahead to I'll switch to that NFS file location, and let's see if we can access the same file. Okay, and you can see I can access the same file. If I go back to the first VM and create another folder, right? Test folder, and create another file, right? And I go back to the second VM. If let me clear this. If I run ls, you can see whatever I update in the first VM will show up here. If I still go ahead to, from the second VM, if I want to maybe like update or create another folder, if I go to the other VM, it will reflect here. You can see. So this is how NFS file share works. So even as remote workers, we can use this to, to have to make data accessibility so easy, that flexibility, that efficiency of not having to duplicate, my files or whatever I've worked on other VMs. Whatever I do here can actually be seen from another workstation, and whatever maybe my colleague do in their own NFS file location in whatever workstation can reflect here. So this is the beauty of NFS file share. Okay, so and you can as well go ahead to you mount this. That is to remove the mount. That is what you mount is. So to you mount this or delete this um mount point from existing in your server, you can use this command. Okay, so that is it. So at any point in time, it is not actually risky to something can happen and you may lose this mount point. All you need to do is to use sudo mount dash a. Because we have that configured in the FS tab, that will just mount successfully for you. At some point at work or in your cloud journey, you may actually discover that the storage capacity of your virtual machine isn't really enough to handle your growing data or application needs. So whether it's for storing more files, databases, or application data, having that, flexibility to add extra storage is actually very crucial, all right? So in this video, I'm going to show you how to easily, achieve that in Azure, giving you the extra space you need without any hassle. I'll be walking you through on how to attach an Azure managed disk to your VM, actually a Linux VM, okay? And then how to format and partition the disk, then how to mount the disk to your VM, as well as going extra mile to persist the mount so that it can persist upon system reboot. Okay, so if this sounds like what you're here for, kindly watch this video to the end and kindly give me a thumbs up, subscribe to this channel, and turn on notification, because more Azure videos, AWS videos, as well as SRE and DevOps videos will be dropping soon, and you don't want to miss that. Let's get started. So I'm already signing. Yeah, this is Azure Portal, right? We'll be using Azure Portal, and already I have my VM named Tish VM1. So this VM needs extra storage capacity. You can see what I have here, and I just need extra storage capacity. All right, I'll need that to store more files. If I scroll down, you should be able to see the OS disk that comes with this VM. Okay, but I need extra storage. So what do? I need to create an Azure managed disk. Already I have my disk. So here I have my Azure managed disk already created. You can see the size here. The storage type is premium SSD LRS. Okay, and this disk needs to be attached to my virtual machine. As you can see, it says unattached. Okay, so how do we attach this disk to my VM? So I'll have to go back to my VM. So once you open your VM, just come to the left navigation pane. I already expanded this, but you can find that from settings. So once you expand this setting option, you should be able to see disk. Click on that. So if you don't have a disk already, you need to create a disk. Okay, create an Azure managed disk, and it's so easy to do that. Maybe I should just show you the option, but it's actually very simple to create. Once you click or you open the disk service, all right, click on create Azure Managed Disk, and you should be able to just fill in these options. You should be able to know the size of the disk you want. It depends on the amount of data you actually want to store. Okay, just a normal way of doing this stuff is actually very simple, and you create that. So let me go back to my VM, going back to disk. So from this window, you should be able to see your OS disk, and we don't have any business here, okay? And this is data disk, right? So from here, you should even see there is an option to create a new data disk if you don't have it. But we have an existing data disk. So what should I do? You just to click on this attach existing data disk, right? And because that is the first disk we want to attach to our VM, it is actually LUN0. That is what it shows here. So I won't touch here. So from here, I should be able to select the disk that I want to attach. This is it here. Teach data disk 1. I'll select that. And that is actually that. From here, you can see host caching option. You can select read only or read write. But I don't really want to do host caching, so I'll just leave it at none. So after selecting this, all I need to do is to apply. So once I click on apply, this disk will be attached to my VM. So let's click on that. You can see updating virtual machine. So let's give it a moment to finish the app. So it has actually attached the data disk to my VM, okay? And yeah, this is it here. So this is my disk attached. If I click on this disk, it should be able to show attached. Great. As you can see here, it is attached. All right, but that doesn't end here. So the first stuff is to attach the disk to your VM, and then the next step will be to log into our VM in order to partition and format this disk because it's actually a new disk. So let's get to the terminal. So now I've SSH into my VM, and the first thing I need to do is to locate the newly attached disk. Okay, how do I locate that? There's the command we can use to find our disk. Okay, so I'm just gonna copy that here. Let me get rid of this double quote here. Press enter. Great. So after filtering this out, is basically showing us the SD's disk, right? And my own is SDC. This is the size of my disk, all right? So we should be able to partition this disk. You can as well use LSBLK to see everything here, okay? So this is all the disk I have in this VM, okay? But this is the secondary disk that we attached. That is SDC over here. All right. So what is the next? We need to partition this disk. So this is a new disk. So we have to partition and format it. Please don't format a data disk that contains your data. So if it already contains data, you don't need to partition or format it. All you just need to do is to mount it. So because it's a new disk, let's see how we can partition and format it. So I'll go here. I have the command. We'll be using a pattern utility, all right, to format the disk. And how do we format it? I'm just gonna copy this one after the other. So I'm going to paste this command, and this is to partition the disk actually. So it will create a GPT partition table and partition the disk. It will take up to 100% of the disk space actually, and it will be ready for use with an SFS file system. Okay, so why are we using this stuff here? So this is our disk. That is why we are using /dev/SDC because that is what we found here as the secondary disk we attached. Okay, so please ensure you don't make mistake because partitioning a different disk may actually lead to data loss. Okay, so I'll press enter and that is done. So to format it, I'm going to paste it here and it will be formatted. And that is actually done. Now let's update the system because the operating system is actually supposed to be informed of the new partition changes. All right. I'll paste it and press enter, and that is done. Now the next step is to mount our disk. Okay, so we need to first create a directory where we want to mount the file system. So if I type df-h to check how the file system is doing, you can see that we don't have the disk mounted yet. Okay, so this is what we got by default. All right, so we need to mount the new disk we've attached. The disk we just partitioned and formatted. So how do we mount it? Let's first create, or let me clear my screen. So I'm going to be creating a directory where I want to mount this, and I'm going to name this data disk. Okay, so directory has been created. How do we mount it? To mount it, I'm going to be typing sudo mount dash dev. Remember, this is our disk, right? So I will be typing the directory that I've created, which is where I want to mount the disk. Okay, so sudo mount dash dev slash dev slash sdc1. This one is actually the disk, and we want to mount it to this directory. Okay, so all I need to do is to press enter, and then let's confirm that this has been mounted successfully. Great, you can see our disk has been mounted successfully. Now we need to ensure persistence after reboot. Okay, so to make sure that this disk automatically remounts after a reboot, we need to add it to file. How do we locate that? Currently, if I type sudo cat NFS tab, we should be able to see the default disk that have been persisted, but then we need to modify this file in order to persist this disk. All right, how do we do that? I'll use my favorite editor. I'll use Vim. All right, to get into this file and then modify it. But first of all, before we even begin modifying this, let me go out of here first. I'm going to show you a command that you can use because we actually need this UI ID in order to persist this. So we need to get the UI ID of our disk that we just mounted, right? So how do we do that? Simply type blkid, right? Blkid, yeah. Great. So this actually shows us it will display the information about the block devices, okay, such as hard drives, partitions, and attached disk. So we are actually interested in getting the UUID of our disk. And what is UUID? This is actually the full name is universally unique identifier of our device. Okay, so it's very important. We need to use it to mount our device. Okay, to ensure persistence. So this is actually very unique per device or per disk, so you don't want to mistake one for the other. So here I'm not actually seeing the one for, but I'm gonna use sudo blkid so that everything will be displayed, right? The SDC1, this is our disk, right? See the UUID here, the block size is this, the type is SFS. So please, when you want to modify your FS tab, you need to get familiar or copy out this when you run this command blkid, all right? Because you don't want to use another file system type to persist this. You'll be making a mistake. So ensure you know the type and you copy out this. So I'm just gonna be copying this out. You also need to take a backup. So please, I'll urge you to take backup of your FS tab before you modify, in case you need to roll back. So I'm just going to copy this. So here we have it at etc FS tab. So I'm gonna be copying that to this location. Okay, and let's actually see if the backup has been created, right? You can see my FS tab file and the backup I just created. Great. So let me clear my screen. Now we can go ahead to modify the FS tab, all right? So I'm leaving every other thing here untouched. I'm just gonna create a space and I'll paste what I have. But then I will be, all this extra information are not actually needed, okay? So the UI ID, I need to get rid of this stuff here, okay? Please ensure you don't make mistake when you're pasting the UI ID. So I need to type the directory where I've mounted this disk, and the directory is data I know slash data disk, right? The file system type is SFS, right? And then do not worry, I'm gonna be sharing a documentation that can actually help you to get these commands as well, all right? So I'll be typing the defaults, no fail. So what have I done? I've actually just configured my device to, to be mounted at boot time, okay? Or the disk to be mounted at boot time. And why did I add default no fail? This default is just like a shorthand for the default mount option. Okay, we have some default mount option. Instead of customizing it, we are good with default. And this no fail option actually allow the system to, the no fail I have here actually allow the system to continue booting even if the disk or partition is not available or fails to mount. Okay, ensure you add this no fail, okay, so that even if there is a problem with the disk or it fails to mount or whatever, it should allow the system to boot. That is actually all I need to do here, and I'll just save this file. Great, and that is all. So let's actually try this stuff by rebooting it. So you can type reboot here, or we can use the Azure portal to um actually restart the VM. So here you may choose to restart or stop the VM and then start it again. Great, it has stopped successfully. Now I can start this VM again. Great, so the VM has started. So I've SSH into my VM. So right now, let's test what we've done. If it doesn't mount, then there is definitely an error. So I can't find our data disk. So let's find out what happened. Let's view the FS tab and see if we made a mistake in our configuration. Okay, guys, sorry, actually omitted adding s here. So let's quickly edit the file. This default is actually default. That should be s. I will save it. Okay, great. So now let's use sudo mount. So we can actually mount our disk from the FS tab directly. Okay, so let's mount it again. Sudo mount -a. So when you type sudo mount -a, it will actually mount your data disk based on the configuration you have in your FS tab. So great. I believe it has mounted successfully, but let's check. It has mounted. Okay, so we may try to reboot the server again. This point, let me just use reboot option here. Okay, after the reboot, let's check again. As you can see, we still have our disk here. So that persistence has been achieved. Let's switch directory to this mount point. So cd data disk. You should be able to, okay, so it's actually empty because we've not really stored any files or data in this location. So we can go ahead to, maybe create uh directories or whatever in this location. I say create folder one, sudo. All right, and now we have folder one, and you can create your files, whatever you want to do in this location. That is up to you because it's now part of your virtual machine. Okay, and you can also go ahead to give the right permission because it actually depends on what you're using this for. Some application may require some level of permission in order to write to this disk. Okay, so you need to ensure that at every point in time that any user or system that wants to write to this disk has the required level of permission that it deserves. So we've successfully attached Azure Managed Disk to our Linux VM. We partitioned that, we formatted it, and mounted it to our Linux VM. Okay, we also ensure that there is persistence upon system reboot. Thank you so much for staying true to the end of this video. If you found this helpful, please ensure you like this video, subscribe, also turn on the notification bell because you have more cloud, DevOps, and SRE videos that will be dropping soon. You don't want to miss out. Thank you and have a great day. Bye.